Alright everyone, good evening and welcome back to Sonic Adventure 2 Hero Story PB analyses once again. Today I'm going to be looking at Sora's PB. He's in the chat just now already with his PB, his newly minted PB of a low 36. Pretty damn good, though I assume I'm going to have some things to talk about, so we'll just begin. We'll see how this goes.
I will get it.
Bonjour Sora, je m'appelle Draco.
Il y a un sacré gap graphique quand même avec S2.
I'm not going to be able to do too much about stuff like YouTube control icons and stuff like this appearing over the feed just because of where his game feed is located on his screen, but we'll see. I'll try to keep the cursor off as much as I can. This for once, the game feed itself is actually pretty nice quality as well. So that makes a nice change. And there is an input cam, although it is off the game screen. But you guys can take my word for it that Sora is displaying a input cam on the screen. So let's just go back to this point first of all. So yeah, it looks to me like you're trying to do the trick here where you avoid the trolley by getting a jump to the left, and you're going to more consistently be able to manage this by, first of all, obviously jumping on the left side of the ramp, but also trying to jump on the back of the ramp, because you get more speed and distance off the ramps, I'm sure you know, by jumping near the edges of them. So if you're trying to do this, then you really want to try and prioritize jumping off this part of the ramp if possible, because you can see that you jump slightly further to the right and like halfway along it, and the result is that you just still end up flying into this trolley. So yeah, that is necessary. And also, if you want to get the most out of being able to jump and get the fast start where you land around here, you also do want to be jumping over the speed pads that you just reached at that point. So the pathing there was like a little awkward, but the recovery was correct. That it's doing the spin dash over here, which is definitely correct. But then, if anything was a little iffy here, it's just the turnaround here, because you ended up on the wall and then needing to come back down. You definitely like addressed it the correct way, coming back down to the ground, but the turn itself is just a little awkward, and the only thing I can really say for that is to try and use a little bit more rightwards movement here, because I'm looking at your control cam, the input cam here, and you do turn around to like fully right at this point, but it's like a little too late, so the damage is kind of already done at this spot. And I appreciate that it is difficult, since if you use too much right input too early, then you just end up flying into the wall on the right hand side, so it's a little difficult to gauge, but that's just maybe something to do a little bit of practice on. Yeah, I don't really mind that though, and I'm assuming this is just going to be a regular C skip. Yeah. So getting this result here from holding basically nearly right on the control stick surprises me a little bit, but it worked. Oh, okay, you did actually switch to left input. Yeah, I was wondering why you just stuck there, because typically if you hold right when you land here, then you do just go into the right hand wall, which can work, but then you did snap to more leftwards input, which typically sticks you around here, which is good as well. So I was just looking at why that happened.
We're good, gamer. We have a run.
Okay, the control here throughout the rails was, aside from the little blip there, it was largely pretty good. The second rail actually used up-down input instead of left-right input. That is actually, I've been told, because I don't apply it myself yet, but I've been told that's actually the correct way to do that, so that's a pretty nice way to do that. If you can try to aim to go under the leftmost point of the somersault barrier here, then it's something you should aim to do, since that is what causes you to stick to the first hill in truck section when you go over it. But this, I appreciate this can also be a little tricky to do, because if you are too far to the left, then Sonic just gets stuck underneath it and doesn't connect with the speed pad. So yeah, that's a bit touch and go. But that is the fastest way you can do that. Basically, to try and bear as far left as you can afford to when going under the somersault barrier. Which is considerably more difficult to manage if you don't have a neutral camera like that. Like, you had a very good camera for attempting that.
Okay, it was close. We got it.
Okay, this is actually pretty good for truck section. Oh, no. Okay, I'm going to have a look at your actual inputs to see what happened here. This looks to me like on the input cam that you just did 1B input. Because you clearly unroll from the spin dash, but then another one doesn't come out. I think you just didn't press B again here. And I'm going to look at when you tried to do this as well. I'm assuming that you're using when you pass this ramp as the cue for when to do it. Because like if we go back, it looks like you unroll from the spin dash right after you pass the ramp. And that is the cue that I use. So if that's what you're doing, then I definitely agree with that. And if that's not what you're doing, then that's something to start applying. Oh, the black car. Let's have a look. I'll go back again. Oh. I see. I assume you mean the black car on the right, so this will be, You mean this guy? That seems a little more match up with the reaction time that's going on there, because if it was the ramp you were reacting to there, then you were really anticipating the ramp appearing. It's the ramp that I use personally, though. Or the one closest to the ramp. Alright, whichever. If you've got a cue that works for you, it's a cue that works for you, though, so that's fine. Overall, though, that cityscape was pretty clean, and the truck section itself, aside from just not spin dashing over the last hill, was honestly very clean. Like, I did like that truck section, overall. So, something that I've actually seen Traitor using on this, which actually looks like a good idea, is when you're about to land here like this after every rebound, he actually homing attacks towards the box now. So that, like, at this point you are facing in the direction that you're going to go towards the box and you're somersaulting towards it. But I've seen Traitor just homing attacking towards the box, and that seems to work pretty well for getting to the box very quickly. So that's an option that you could maybe consider trying. So, like, homing attack, and homing attack, you know, as you're about to reach the ground. And as long as you're facing, like, basically what you did there. Just trying that throughout the fight. Because that was giving Traitor some pretty good results. And if you're struggling to keep up with getting first frame hits, that could help.
Alright, gamer.
Alright, so let's see what this Wild Canyon has. Looking for a lot of free pieces, it looks like, and not getting any. Swell parent. This execution looks a little funny to me. Typically, I mean, like, you maintained a long glide here, but typically what I try to do whenever I'm about to enter a wind tunnel from below, I just try and run along the ground and then just jump into the wind tunnel. I'm not entirely sure why you just try to glide into that. I personally think it's better to jump up into a wind tunnel if you're trying to go up, because I think it pushes you up a bit quicker. Also, lol, the chat on the screen. Yeah, this set's just bad. This set's just really bad. So, what I would suggest for this piece, instead of climbing where you did, is if you climb somewhere like here and just stand on top of this pillar here, then you can just jump and glide towards the piece, and it cuts down the climbing time slightly. And you get moving slightly quicker as well. Like, I think climbing like this is a little slower for that piece. But that was just a very bad set, so, like, I'm not very surprised that that came out as a 32, because it was just really far apart from the pieces. So. Yeah, I don't really like just standing and trading hits with him without moving, because you are most of the time going to take a hit like this. And that counterattack from Eggman can land at a very inconvenient time and basically force you to lose some time, which is why I veer to the right a little bit to dodge his shots, which is an option you can maybe consider. But if you do this, and if this is getting you consistent 12s, then that's, you know, all that's really important, that you're getting under 13 seconds in that fight. Let's have a look at where's the lanes going. So I'm not sure if it looks to me like this hop could maybe have been like a bit shorter. On the input cam, it looks like you're just giving like an A tap, so it certainly wasn't a full hop. I'm just looking at if it could have really been much shorter, but it's already a pretty good hop. Fence hop, okay, nice. Not jumping more times than is necessary there, which is like it's half the battle with this section. Just spending as much time on the ground as you can afford, because like you went towards the door too early here, obviously, because you bunked into it here and lost all your speed. But then you don't compound the problem, at least by jumping too much, which is nice. So just temper a little when you're going to go for this door. Like give it a little bit of time to open first, so that you can go through it with some speed. And then just try and jump around all in one smooth jump. I will bring up the video game on my end very quickly, because I've got it ready. And I'll have a little quick look myself. Enemies suck. So you can see just I slow down here and I basically just give the door like more than enough time to get opened, because if you're a little late just approaching the door like that, it's still better than running into the door early and losing all your speed. So when I come to that point where I'm targeting both of the enemies, I pretty much just come to a complete stop for a short time and then just start moving again. Like, I don't think it's worth trying to approach the door and destroy the enemies without stopping moving, personally. So something like that. That's what I like to do anyway. Just a suggestion. And then this is a problem that I have with this door as well, just like jumping into it too early. I still have the game like right at this spot, so you can probably see like if it's going to happen to me here. I'm in a bit of a weird situation here though, because I'm starting from a pause. Whoops. Yeah, again, like the door as I approached it was pretty much already completely open, so maybe that's the reason why I didn't have that problem there, but I do struggle with that same thing there. But with the doors in this stage, I find it generally helps to just slow down a little bit and give them more time to get opened before you try and just bum rush them, personally. Yeah, that, I don't 100% understand what causes that, but it could be that because you like wiggled here, this maybe affected your speed a little bit, and maybe you jumped a little bit too early. Like, I'm gonna look at this slowed down. Because you definitely want to be fully on the elevator before you do this jump, which you were, but yeah, it's like Tails really tried to get up there. Like, look at this collision. Like that looks to me like you should have made that. This jump is just really silly. So it probably is just a combination of jumping slightly too early, and maybe your speed was slightly lower than it would have been if you hadn't wiggled like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's a really silly spot in the stage in general. Nice Tommy reaction as well. Yeah, just again, like this looks like it's actually a bit of a habit of yours going through the stage, that you get to the doors very fast and then you have to slow down to wait for the doors to open. Whereas, like, at this sort of spot, you may as well just slow down here as soon as you've destroyed the enemy, and then just wait a little bit and then go again. Because you need to wait the same amount of time either way, and I think it costs a little less time to wait early and then be able to go through the door with high speed, rather than the other way around. Like, there's no need to have to wait there like that. I'll again pull up the game feed and give an example here. Look, I can make the jump. Oh. Then I can't break boxes. Either way though. Like, you see there where I slow down there when I target the enemy. I just wait a short second and then go. I think that's going to produce some consistently better results for gates like that in general. If you just try and get into the habit of waiting a little longer than you think is necessary and then go towards the gates should be pretty helpful there. I'm also actually going to move game onto the other monitor just so it doesn't get in the way of the other feed. So you did it correctly there, at least. Like, you knew that there was a long time that you were going to have to wait there because of the one enemy not getting targeted, like here. So then you did wait long enough there. I just want to see how you enter the elevator here. Okay, so this elevator entry can be significantly faster, though, actually. Because, first of all, there's quite a lot of height on this jump. You have to consider that this elevator starts moving once you land on the elevator. Like, it doesn't matter about crossing this threshold here. It starts when you land on the elevator. And you do, like, a hop here that gives you a lot of extra air. And so the elevator's not moving, and it only starts moving once you actually land on it, basically like halfway across here. So it's slightly better in general to, if I just pull the game up again, you'll see when I reach the section what I prefer to do with the elevator instead. So jump a little earlier and just use a very short hop to land on the elevator as soon as possible. Like, that will save like a couple of tenths of a second. I can probably like try and actually pinpoint directly how much time it would save. I'm gonna go back a little here. We'll get rid of the game again. And try and do a short hop there, because you had a lot of spare air there, is what I'm saying. So basically, at this point, the elevator can potentially be engaged at like 4107. And this is the point where it gets engaged. So that's basically like 0.3 of a second just on activating the elevator from jumping a little too late and jumping a little too high. So just, like, jump slightly earlier and just make it a very short hop. Just like tap the A button to get onto it, and you'll be saving a fraction of a second just from that.
I lost 3 seconds because of dumb stuff. Person regrets.
Just a little too early on that jump, which I'm sure you know that anyway.
Yo, what's up, Sanzi?
Yeah, this gate kind of sucks. I really struggle with that gate as well. I also wait around there. I'm not sure if it's actually better to do so, but it is what I choose to do. Okay, so this is something I've actually been talking about on my streams lately, and for this I'm actually going to turn the volume way up here. Like, yeah. So, at this point, I just want you to listen to the game. So, you can hear the boxes breaking there, and whenever you're in this situation, this spot here, because you're waiting for the door to open, because you have downtime, you should be listening. And you want to be listening for the boxes breaking there, because if you heard the boxes break, then when you reach this spot, you wouldn't have done this jump expecting the boxes to still be there. That's what I'm seeing here, that you reach this spot and you're basically expecting the boxes to be there and jump on them. So what you should be doing at that spot is just listening for whether the boxes are actually still intact. Again, just bring it back here. So if you hear that breaking sound, just adjust your plan. Just think, well, okay, I've heard the boxes break, so once I get around to this section, I'm just going to do one large jump to get up this gap. Because worst case scenario, if you are fully expecting the boxes to be there and you just commit to the short hop like that, it is actually possible to fit through this small gap here and take a death. It doesn't happen often, but it is possible, and there's just no reason for it to happen if you know the boxes aren't there. So, like I say, in this spot of the stage, you want to use your ears just as much as your eyes to listen to whether the boxes are still intact.
Oh.
Yeah, like, yeah, that, as long as you are aware of if the boxes are there, that should never happen.
I love losing time because of weird stuff.
Hey, getting the early lock there is nice. So this is something that I've highlighted before as well, just that it's stuck on the volume control. That you use a full hop here to target this enemy when it's not really necessary. Like, as long as you jump around where this shadow is on the floor, you can pretty much use a short hop and still get the enemy that you need. So you don't need to cut your ground speed quite so much. Like, I'll just play through the stage. Because I can just hopefully like show the other parts that I was talking about. So first of all, just try not to jump too early there. Yeah, thanks Tails for not turning around very quick. So I'm deliberately targeting everything there without shooting so I can demonstrate just what I'm talking about here. So I know the boxes are intact. So then I do the same thing that you were trying to do here, which is just hop and hop. But I mean, I may as well just break them here, just to make it easier. But then, by contrast, if the boxes are broken and I know that they're not going to be there, then instead I just do that, which is, you know, pretty much the same thing. Oh, dear, corners. So when you're here, just short hop and you can still get that enemy. You can see I've targeted him in the top. So that's a neat little optimization there as well. Taking the jumps here, I actually find this gate hop significantly easier to take without slowing down than the first one. So I think, first of all, I'm not sure it's really correct to target all 4 enemies at once here, though I think I've done the same thing. Oh no, I haven't done the same thing on my game feed because I'm seeing at least 2 times ones on my screen. You want to try and release these shots individually if you can, so that you'll destroy them earlier, because the fact that these weren't destroyed as early as possible just means that, like, once you reach this point, like, you tried to do the jump and you would have gotten a clean jump without slowing down, except that the gate was still a little too high, which means that you were actually close to missing the gate hop here because of the gate taking longer to come down. But ideally you do want to be in a situation where you can hopefully get on it without slowing down. Again, this is going to be weird for me to do from just the pause like this. I'm going to try. Yeah, just trying to get a seamless one like that where the gate's already falling and then you just jump on top of it without slowing down. That's the ideal situation to be, and that is most easily achieved by making sure the enemies are destroyed quicker by using multiple lock-ons rather than one huge lock-on to get a ×4. Because if you slow down there, it just makes the entire rest of the gate hop a little more difficult as well, because you will have a bit less speed for making the other jumps, which just, for obvious reasons, makes it a bit more difficult.
142.
Oh, one guy left. But, yeah, it is what it is. So, there's like a lot of little things that just could have been applied in the prison lane, but it's still a relatively okay stage. There's just a lot of little things that you can be paying attention to there.
I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Run are not pretty bad actually. I got some decent pace, but they all die so far, but no big deal. I'm pretty confident to get a good pace.
Alright, let's see Metal Harbor. That spinner start is slightly more optimal and not many people do it, so nice. Getting the underloop there is very nice. Spin dash just slightly too early there is what causes this. Like, if you spin dash as soon as you're off the floor, I'm expecting that... So during this spot, I'm expecting the X button to be engaged before you land. Yeah, you're just holding X before you land, which can result in this situation here where by the time you do the spin dash, you're not over all the vertexes here. Like, yeah, like you were so close to being over this last vertex, which would have sucked you to the ground, but it's actually quite easy to end up in this awkward position where you either have to hold the spin dash longer or just risk flying off the edge like this from getting vertexed. So typically what I try to do here is just try and wait until I've already landed before I engage the X button. Like, at this point you've engaged the X button before you've landed. I just try to wait until... Wait, yeah. I just like try to wait until I can see that Sonic has landed and that he started running before I start charging my Spin Dash. And that typically makes it so that by the time this Spin Dash comes out, I'm already fully on the slope, so I can't get Vertex like that. Like, objectively, it's slightly slower for me to do it like that, but it is a lot safer to do it like that, in my opinion. And it'll prevent that from happening.
Mistakes, so that's good. I did one more.
Like, that would have been a sub 20 light dash without the Vertex slope thing happening there.
It was pretty good actually. I was on PB pace for a while, but I got some bad RNG and I fucked up King.
So, the only thing that I'm noting here is the movement here seems a little bit jerky. And, like, by that I mean, like, you go pretty much straight up here. I can see on the input cam you are going directly up here. And then, like, as you're about to reach this speed pad, you then just, like, suddenly jerk to the right. Like, you're still holding straight up on the control stick here. Yeah, and then you turn the control stick very aggressively to the right within a few frames, which obviously at this point you need to do that to hit the speed pads, but I think like the ideal movement situation to be in is just to try and do that turn gradually, or try and like find the angle to do it in one long shot. I'll try and demonstrate myself. I think it's just a good movement habit to get into, to try and eliminate as much of this like twitch reaction as possible, where you're just suddenly jerking in the direction you need to be. And also that's what I mean there, where I start the spin dash a little late and it didn't come out until I was already on the slope fully. But I'm going to try what I'm talking about here. So you can see here that like I'm just drifting towards where the speed pads are gradually, because I'm taking a very, very acute angle, like a very slight angle, rather than doing it all in one jerk once I reach the speed pads. Like, I think it's a good habit to try and develop, and I think it's generally easier to make costly mistakes from doing, like, twitch movement like that, because, like, at this point, like, the way you twitch into the, the way, like, you just, twitch to the right into the, speed pad, obviously, if you do it too early or too late, then you're going to miss the speed pad, and there's a lot of situations where it can just cause you to be in awkward situations, or maybe even risk dying in a lot of situations. So, as a movement habit in general, this is maybe something to just try and working on gradual direction changes rather than jerking the control stick to get into the spot that you need to be. That's maybe something to look at.
Yeah.
Like, not just as something to do in that situation, but something to work on in your overall movement, like as a habit for the whole game.
And now I'm starting reset run.
Okay, so for this, I need to take another look at like where and how this happened. So I think that the best thing to do here is to just short hop and homing attack so that you get landed sooner here, because then the way you like jumped here when you're already on this slope, like this gave you quite a bit of height, and also homing attacking when you did here to get around, it seems like it feels like a little weird to me. And landing around here also prevents you from getting any side of loop speed boost. I have the game here to demonstrate hopefully what I'm talking about. Like, I try and just land on basically the other side of where the loop is to try and hopefully get a bit of a loop speed boost. Please. The danger is that you can do it too early like that and just, well, get dragged down by the wall. But ideally, just getting around, landing on the other side of the half loop. Yeah, just don't try and squeeze it as much as I'm doing here. I'll be a little more conservative with it this time. Yeah, doing a homing attack cancel there helped like a little bit. But I think that can be slightly faster rather than just landing like very near the speed pad here. And it reduces the chance that you're just going to accidentally run into the speed pad, which is like a big time loss. Even if you don't directly run into the speed pad, if you jump just before the speed pad, it's still possible to like clip the edge of it as you're rising in your jump, and that still gives you the full effect of being launched in the air and coming back down here, which wastes a couple of seconds. Loop skip? No. Okay, so
Nice.
Okay, so you tried to do the second pulley release the correct way, and you just didn't do anything specific for the first pulley release, which was weird. Like, because like you wait really long here, the pulley is already at its highest spot by the time you release, which means that you're already like at the somersault barrier here by the time you land on the ground. By which by contrast, it wants to look like something like this, without getting the somersault on the ground. And you like try to do the same thing here, but then went slightly early. So ideally, you just want to get off this pulley like this as well. That's too early. Too late. I wasn't in a good position to just do it all in one motion there. All right. And I'm doing it too early there as well. You know what I'm trying to do though. Like, something like that. So that you can hopefully do it without stopping. And without slowing down like that, so you can go for some loop speed there. Hopefully. This section's really awkward to backtrack on because of the camera. Yeah, just take the Death Sonic. Something like that, you know what I mean. And then hopefully don't die or get launched in the air. Ah, I see, Sora.
Okay, so we're not gonna take any risk and just...
So, saying something about like taking, viewing this as like risky, this, going for the loop speed here ideally shouldn't be risky. Like, I can see that you're just, like holding attacking there, but as long as you wait until you're actually through the loop, this shouldn't really be risky at all. Let's backtrack again here. I really hate the camera here. So like you can hold a long jump like you did here, just holding the jump for as long as possible to gain as much height. But as long as you just wait until you are, as long as you wait until you're through the loop, then you won't be taking a risk with loop speed like that. Like, it can risk launching you out the bottom of the loop if you don't wait until you are all the way through the loop. And you can even do it like quite a bit lower down the loop as well with a shorter jump. But again, as long as you wait until you're through it, then even if you don't manage to get the jump off, like the homing attack input off, you at least won't die. Like there, I'm like too low, so I'm not able to get the homing attack input off. But you can like see the idea. I'm just gonna get there one more time so that I can like do the end of the stage then afterwards. And this will be easier to do like with actual forward momentum from here. Please. I'm gonna do it from the pulley. Yeah, like as long as you wait until you're through the loop, then it shouldn't really be a problem. Because as long as you're through the solid, the other solid side of the loop, it can't like throw you through the solid side.
I'm gonna take any risk and just say no to the loop speed. I don't want to
Yeah, just don't hit the left speed pad there. So, this is a good example of what I mean about like just the jerky movement. This is like something that is quite a big barrier to a lot of players. Like, you can get pretty good at this game whilst still having jerky movement, but it still makes a lot of like the very subtle and fine things just not work particularly well. Such as this turn here. Ideally, you want to just take this turn in one smooth motion, where just you start from holding up here, and then as you're going through the loop, you just start to tilt on the turn. I mean, you start to tilt to the right, and then you want to ideally just be able to take Sonic one smooth path here. But then there's problems, you know, like hitting the wall here, and this is kind of a byproduct of having the like jerky movement that I was mentioning. I will try to show the quote-unquote like good movement here, what I'm on about, without hopefully fucking it up. So you really want to be able to just try and do one smooth motion like that. And I don't have an input cam up myself, but all I am doing there is one smooth rotation on the control stick. Like, I'm not starting on up and then jerking it to exactly where I need to be. I'm just gradually changing the control stick as I'm going through that entire turn. I like not attacking the beetles. Good. You don't want to homing attack the beetles there. I like the camera change there to make that a little more convenient, and 12.91 is a very good rocket platform time.
And remember, even if I die to wall run once, I can still save time. That's the most important part.
And I like the
So yeah, 3 seconds very enough.
the ending skip there as well.
If I don't
So
fucked up Shadow 1,
Metal Harbor
I
largely
might save time.
quite a lot of good. There's just like a couple of things that I mentioned in it, but largely I'm not objecting too much to the Metal Harbor.
Fucked up once before losing time.
If anything, like I say, it was just symptomatic of some awkward movement habits more than anything else, as I mentioned.
Alright, what's up, Faker? Good to see you. What was that? Hi, Shadow.
Okay, so I'm going to need to look at this properly for a bit. So to begin with, you are starting this fight by like holding directly up and then angling towards him a bit. This is similar to like what I was saying with the thing in Metal Harbor, that if possible you want to just try and take as straight a path as possible to Shadow. Like ideally you want to start the fight by just holding up with a little bit of left, so that rather than turning into him like that, you'll just take one really straight path into him as he starts running towards your left for the first hit to begin with. And then I'm going to slow this down.
Alright. What's up, Faker?
And this is a good example of like why I tend to prefer using the spin dash strat lately, because part of the difficulty with this fight is working around when he does the jumps, either the short hops or the long hops. Like, if he doesn't do that short hop and you can risk taking damage on him, then you don't have to be so scared of reapproaching him. But as it is, like, you ended up staying away from him there. And then by the time you can go like back into him, it was an awkward position where the camera was quite unhelpful there and prevented you from actually reaching him easily, which put you then in this awkward position, this really awkward movement thing from getting the rebound after hit 2, and then that pretty much directly just caused this happening. Like at this point there's not really much you actually could have done about this, so this was just a couple of really weird things happening back to back that you didn't really have full control over. So, like, for what you got in the fight, it was actually handled pretty well, I think.
Time on Shadow 1 because he can't even boop you. Yo, I noticed the thing actually. Find Amy and Taz right away.
I agree.
So yeah, it's very easy to miss wall run, but
So I also don't do the I don't do the light dash here, but I also do a spin dash chain. I'm just going to finish my drink quickly. Like, there was just one spin dash that you used here. And that requires you to hold a spin dash going up a hill, which invariably slows you down. So what I try to do here myself is just to do a spin dash chain in the spot. Sometimes it can get you like launched off the edge, but yeah, that's how I try to do the start of the stage always. To do a spin dash chain, because I'm going to pause buffer this here to see when I pretty much dead on 8 seconds that I'm hitting the speed pad there. So I'm gonna need to adjust for the you know, the timing difference here, but we'll see.
so yeah, it's very easy to miss wall run, but
Yeah, because as it is here, you are hitting the speed pad like 9.1, so like minus 0.85. That's around about like 8.3 that you're hitting the speed pad. So again, like from not chaining a spin dash there, that's like a fraction of a second just from losing a little speed going up the uphill. And then
Should be
mushroom,
fine,
yeah,
yes.
that just happens sometimes.
So shoot it to mushroom. Almost done.
So,
Making it.
okay, there was no spinach storage here actually, which makes me wonder about what you were doing on the first one. You just hold X the whole way through actually. So, you got a good spinach storage here, but I wonder if this was actually intentional, if there was no spinach storage on the second spring here. Because, like at this point, you just hold this spin dash, and you don't unroll from it. And you just let it go into the spring. With the result that when you then come out of this vine here, there's no spinach storage. Like this is causing the delay here, so hold the game again. Again, like no input cam here, so you're gonna have to take my word on what I'm doing, but you'll be able to see at least that I'm going to unroll from my spinach here and run into the spring, not in ball form. And I'm holding B before I reach the spring, so that as soon as I land, I can get a spinach chain. This game's weird.
People losing time is lame. That's true. Oh, can I make this? Yep, I'm fine. It should be still sub 40. Yep, still sub 40 check. No big deal. Alright.
Okay, this whole section looks pretty okay to me. Oh, this is a wall run attempt. Brutal.
Alright, good. Didn't fall off.
So you are on the correct vertex here to attempt task run if you want to go for it, or like want to attempt it. I'm not sure if you've like tried task run at all, but you do actually land in the right spot for using it. I.e., like you need to land, like you can kind of see that this like this vertex on the tree here. You need to like land where you did basically, to the right of the vertex that's about here. And as long as you land here, you can spin dash to go up the tree, and it will actually come out safely, which sets you up to be able to do task run, which is a little faster than moonshot. Task run definitely has its own challenges though.
Alright, good. Didn't fall off.
Oh, you're not doing moonshot either. Okay, just regular. If I don't get task run, this is basically what I do as well.
Time, but it's kinda risky.
Oh, vertex there.
Can you? Oh crap, dude.
Doing a spin-dash jump there, I don't necessarily agree with doing this, because like typically the more you hold the jump button in the air, the more air resistance you're going to get. Basically, the more you're going to slow down. So when people do the skip and you just want to let the spin dash go, like just release the spin dash button rather than doing a spin dash jump, part of the reason for that is that it does make you go slightly faster, which helps you get the distance for this.
Can you?
So I'm pretty convinced that to do something like this, you would actually just want to do a spin dash jump, a tap on the spin dash jump, and then if you need to get more distance here because you're not going to make it, you can always just use a pause extend. Just pause the game and then hold A coming out of the pause screen to get the extension for it.
Sonic didn't want to do.
And then I think you were just a little too high on the slope to get the loop speed there, which again, part of the reason you were too high is because of using the full spin dash jump there. You just don't want to be too high up on that loop.
Still be ahead. But that's unfortunate.
For the most part, though, yeah, fair.
Back to Kid up. Alright, maybe Halloween's gonna give me the power of good RNG.
So I can see that like you're not going for the hint like text cancel here. Is there a particular reason why you're not trying this? Because I think this is pretty nice to go for, the hint text cancel. Ending up with Path of the Ghost Train. can't read it every time you attempt for it. Huh. Strange. Like, if you don't want to go for it, though, like, I guess don't want to go for it. If you can do it, then as long as you know how to do it, that's the important thing. So this is something that I see a lot of people doing, and I'm not sure how correct this is. I'm going to take a short little detour here to actually do a bit of a movement test here. Because for this sort of situation, I actually use a different hint order. So I'm going to take a quick look here. So I'm going to pretend that I'm in a story run, pretend that I have the same first piece. Or Path of the Ghost Train. Got the piece, so then go for my second hint here. And then I'm going towards Pumpkin Mountain. So let's just assume that I have a pumpkin triangle, say, in this instance. So it's going to be around about 24.5 seconds, but I'm getting it there. But what I tend to do instead is this. So I'm going to actually be paying attention to the timing here. So, okay, going for the same piece again. But then, rather than the other second hint, what I prefer to do is just go to this hint here. And then I'm already moving, like this. You do need a bit of camera control for this, but yeah. Yeah, so that's like, that seems like slightly faster to me. And I'll try one more time just going to the other rocket that I did before as well. Please. Oh, it's actually just better to go for this one. Alright. Yeah, it's just flat out better to go for the other hint monitor that's near Tombstone, guarded by 4 skulls then, if you've already had a first piece on the middle of Church Mountain like this. So the same will also apply for if you have 3 metal barrels, piece 1, I think. Like, let's assume I've got it here. Because at this spot you can... Like, you need to land a little here, but you can still basically do the same thing. And I think that's slightly preferable. Like I say, when you go for that, there is a little bit of camera control involved, but I don't think it's unreasonable to consistently get that. So just maybe a little routing change you can consider there. It looks to be in the region of like a second faster for going towards Pumpkin from here. So I think that's something that a lot of people in general are probably just doing a bit incorrectly.
I like Silver, to be honest. I like his character. Like, I think on 06, Silver has a great story. I really like it.
You did come just from the rocket on the mountain, didn't you? Yeah. So,
06, I do like Silver.
Going around the other side of the mountain here should be the correct play, because from this spot, where you need to end up is, like, here. So basically, you could have, like, gone down here and taken less than a 180-degree circle to end up here. Whereas what you did here was you went around and you take more than a 180-degree circle. And the camera is also going to be worse when you take this path for reaching pieces like under a chimney and pumpkins who don't get along specifically. Like, I'm going to do this and just get a comparison point. I'm going to take 2 visits here. The top of the mountain from here. So let's go around this way first. Like, I think this is just a little bit of an awkward camera to deal with, and I'm pretty sure the camera is easier to deal with from going around the other side. And it's a bit faster as well. Like, you can be turning the camera around early like that, and I think it's just a bit easier to deal with. And like I say, it's a shorter path in the first place.
I like his character. Like, I think on 06, Silver has a great story.
And, I mean, that object is there as well. Like the farmhouse, so that could cut your speed as well.
Okay, this piece can be on 2 stuff. And...
I would generally avoid doing this, if you can. Like, this habit of just drill diving and resetting gradually as you're flying. I think this is just a bad habit, and it does cost, like, a tiny bit of time every time you do it. Like, just... Because if you need to go around here, you may as well just do this all in one Go. And then just glide like this. There's no real reason not to do that, because it's not going to be slower, and if anything, it will be slightly faster. So I think it's just a bit of a bad habit to do drill dives and resetting your glides just for the sake of it when you don't need to do it for the height. So just try not to do that.
That's a good one, nice. So you can basically get this piece because
Okay, Mission
as
Street.
far as you can, so it makes sense to actually.
I thought that was
that
hidden bass music there to begin with. So I don't know if this path you're taking is like just for the sake of avoiding the cop car. I'm assuming that it is because, you know, this car is particularly difficult to destroy. But I am completely unconvinced that it's faster to take this longer path for the sake of avoiding the car. I think even if you hit the car, it's still faster to take a straighter path here. Like, we'll look at when you get the upgrade here.
Couldn't have been Church Mountain as well.
I mean, this is a little, like, just to begin with, but you'll probably see what I mean here when I bring up a comparison.
Hey, I didn't lose all my speed, guys.
So, your upgrade time here is like 22.5, and that was with going on the left side here, which I don't do this in runs. I don't go along the left side, I go on the right hand side because I'm bad and I want to be safe. So the way that I go around the right hand side here is slightly slower. Like, this loses like probably half a second, maybe more, I'm not entirely sure. It'll be like in the region of half a second though that I'm losing from taking the right hand path. So bearing that in mind and seeing that you get a 22.5 here for reaching the upgrade, have a quick look at Mission Street. So I'm trying to take just a more direct path here. And, well, I didn't hit the cop car, so that's the best of both worlds. I did hit that car, though. And I'm getting around about the same time with taking the right-hand path, which is just slower to take. So the only like real difference there was like the paths that we took at the start. I'll deliberately run into the cop car at the start here this time. Like, I won't try and shoot it out the way. And it's, again, around about the same time. And that's with going around the right-hand side. So, like, I am really unconvinced that taking that path at the start to avoid the cop car, that it's actually preferable to do. I don't believe that it's better. Just a small note.
Nice. Good hover.
I guess the most objective way to test it would just be to test it again myself, like compare what I'm going to get. But we'll just do that now. Is it? Alright. Bear with me. I don't do this path very often. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced by this myself. My personal recommendation is still going to be to just tank the car and take the more direct path. It barely slows you down, if any. This is just my opinion, though.
Alright. It's a good start. Okay.
Okay, so this I think was just going too early. The missed pause hover. So it was missing the hover there, really, more than anything else.
It's a good start.
Personally, my timing for when to do this, I mean, it's a little different because I don't use a pause hover here, so I wait slightly longer than other people. But I try to wait until, like, the edge of this platform here, is like lined up with this girder here. So you pretty much like go at the same time that I would, or rather, you want to start at the back here and then start walking forward before you do the hover jump, so that you have a bit of forward momentum once you get up here.
Okay.
But it was about the same time we were doing that, so that was just, I think, the missed pause hover input.
Okay. Even if I don't get zero cycle, actually.
Like I've mentioned previously in other analyses that I don't really like the approach of shooting the police car out the way. I just don't think it's worth doing. Because if you're trying to meet zero cycle, you should comfortably have enough time to hit zero cycle regardless of whether you hit the cop car or not. Like, that won't make the difference for meeting the cycle. And I just think it's a very unnecessary piece of movement to do and can just cause things to go wrong. Like, nothing should really go wrong because you hit the cop car. This is gonna let me demonstrate what I mean about the just the timing for when to go here. Yeah. So I just try to just shoot the car out of the way when I'm reaching it, because if the car's not there, then you can just run past it, no problem. And then hopefully do this all in one. But even if the car is there, like this time I'm not gonna shoot at it at all, and I'm just gonna get ready to do the hover jump. Like, it barely slows you down if you hit it. Like, that's almost imperceptible to me. And just jumping over it, I think that actually slows you down more than hitting the car. So seeing as it's not necessary in the first place, and I think it actually loses more time than hitting the car, I just don't think it's really a good play to jump over the car myself. Again, just my personal advice for this. Because really, in Mission Street, you just want to be making zero cycle as consistently manageable as possible. And not really doing anything unnecessary. Like, jumping here is... jumping is definitely not the right thing to do here. Because, as you're just saying in the chat, jumping is slow. So, for that reason, jumping here is really not necessary. Unless that you are slowing yourself down to be able to get that shot in a specific manner. But I don't really think jumping there is advisable. What I instead try to do is just try and jump and get that box in one go as I'm approaching it. Basically at the same time you did with a single jump. And if I don't get it, then I trigger the weights coming down here. Just do a short pivot turn backwards. And then I just immediately jump to the right and I can shoot it by facing right as I'm going towards it. You should be lined up correctly to get it like that. I'll try and demonstrate here. So I'll quote-unquote miss the box on my approach and then get it on the backtrack. Which doesn't lose time because you're waiting for the weight to start rising anyway. Well, I can't believe it sniped me. But that's basically how you want to get it like that, if you're going to get it on the backup. And this is why I don't pause buffer this. I'll do it one more time. It's apparently slightly faster to do the hop there as well. Mustache claims it's faster. But again, since you're just trying to meet the cycle, I don't think it's necessary. So, this time with feeling. Oh, please get out of the way. Something like that, without then missing the jump input. You can see what I'm doing. I mean, if you're doing it to set up the position to get the box break, then it's not the worst thing in the world. The most important thing in getting zero cycle is how you do this preceding section. This upcoming section, I mean. I am actually quite surprised you made that, I'm not gonna lie. Like... oh, this is where you jump from. This is like a lot more distance to need to make. This was risky, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you really, if you can help it, you want to be jumping from like as close to the edge as possible. Because then you've got like a little extra height to play with as well. This was actually quite risky. Everything else about how you did this was correct. I just don't really like the timing for starting the jump here. I think it's too early. And, I mean, it does cause you to very nearly miss this.
Okay, so, yo, can I make this?
But you made it, so whatever.
Yo, let's go, zero cycle. Holy crap. I'm gonna save a shitload of time.
Null cycle.
Holy shit.
Non-cycle.
So I'm gonna save at least 10 seconds, which is awesome.
Do not shoot the shots. Don't do this. Really wide path here is very just not necessary in a nutshell. You've probably like seen this on my streams and stuff, but I'm going to demonstrate it again. Which means I have to do Walk of Shame. Aren't you a lucky boy getting to see Walk of Shame on my Twitch channel? I'm gonna get half cycle me. I'm gonna die quickly to make the game shut up. Blissful quiet. And then it's loud again. So when you break back in here, it's firing and pressing the B button around here, which causes this jet to come along. And that's the entire problem there. If you don't use the B button, then that's just not going to happen. Like, I'm just not going to shoot at all, and it means I get to take a straighter path anyway, since I just don't go anywhere near the bomb robot. And the jet just doesn't come along. Like, well, it does come along, but it doesn't come along fast enough to actually hit you with anything. And the bomb fragments from the robot also don't fall you at that point. So just one more time. Again, just not going anywhere near the B button here. Just don't do it. Just don't shoot. And you'll get through there in one piece, faster, and without getting interrupted. Every time. Like, there's no need to take this long path and dodge around the bombs.
That was a pretty risky zero
Just don't
cycle,
shoot.
but we got it. So we're still gaming right now.
Ooh, nearly. Okay, so because I'm not sure if this was because I'm not sure if this is how you do this every time, I'm just going to go over again the quote-unquote correct way to take this whole way. Which means I just need to get the enemies out of the way here. Lol, look at that perfect backwards travel. So, the correct way to take this whole way is, as you were doing, with this first set of boxes, you can pretty much hug the wall and you should get through it easily. But hugging the wall for the second set doesn't consistently work. Like, there's a collision, and it still was a pretty good collision. That was a worse one. And sometimes you can just get bonked completely backwards. Basically, if you try and hug the wall, this is going to be borderline random, whether you get through in one piece. So instead, what you want to do is, you want to take this first one normally, like I say, just hugging the wall is fine. But then once you get through here, you want to just angle more up like this, and then you want to turn towards the wall so that you are going through it at more of an angle like this. And you will get through without any collision a lot more consistently if you can manage that. Like that. That's actually the correct way to take that second set of boxes and not risk having a bad collision there. It's a little tricky to judge, but it's super consistent. Like, there's a little bit of learning the actual movement for that, but it's not too much. Literally, all you're doing there is, because you're turning with the camera, it's pretty much just a small point where you don't tilt the control stick to let Tails start angling up, and then you just start tilting the control stick again, so that Tails veers more to the right. And as long as both of those things are like timed correctly and you can make small adjustments as you're going, you should fit through there without any problems. I notice here that I don't think you were going for the yellow car. I mean, hopefully it's still here. Oh yeah, everything's still here. Like, the collision on it is, like, really weird, but I generally find that as long as once you get round here, if you just fire, if you completely mash and just aim in this general direction, you're not really going to miss it. It's impossible for, like, that many shots to go through it without hitting it. So pretty much at this spot, I just don't stop firing. I just fire as many shots as I can to clear as much of a clean path to the goal ring as I can manage. Because, I mean, there's at least one of those cars that you hit there.
Let's go. We still gaming.
So, considering you have, like, a lot of time to hit that yellow car on the left turn, it's well worth just trying to put a lot of shots towards it to break it before you reach it. So let's see AM.
No free piece so far.
Yep, I don't see any free pieces either. Alright, so I have to bring up the same thing that I say to everyone, because, yeah, like, this is something that I think I have had to point out to almost everyone so far, that the way you start Aquatic Mine in a story run is different to how you do it in practice. You will, obviously for the hunting stages, you develop a lot of habits based on how you do it in stage practice. Which is to say, when you do Aquatic Mine in practice, like this, I'm mashing the A button right now. And you don't have control of Knuckles until you've landed on the ground. And again, once you restart, you don't have control of Knuckles until you're on the ground like that. But this isn't how it works in a story run. If I go to Hero Story, there is conveniently a scene that starts at Aquatic Mine, so I can show this. In a story run, you have control of Knuckles immediately, as soon as the stage starts. So, you'll see what I mean. I'm just going to glide as soon as I'm in the air, and then drill dive and start normally. You can just do that immediately. There's no need to wait until Knuckles is on the ground in a story run. Just, that's something to be aware of. You will get slightly faster starts if you capitalize on that.
Yo, nice freebies.
Yo, we mega gaming now.
That's very good right now.
Arguably, if you've already had a free piece up here, like that minecart piece, arguably if you've had that, there's not much value in going for this beetle. But there's not really much else to do in the meantime, because, yeah, you're just turning around anyway and going down, so you may as well fly into the beetle, but don't think that you're going to actually get another free piece by doing that. Is all I'm saying.
Oops.
Wrong side. Yeah, so stage awareness is really important in Aquatic Mine. So starting the stage here, going up. So currently the start of the stage is this way. So yeah, so the start of the stage you should know is to the left of you. So you know that you have something other than a minecart, which is in the bottom left corner from where you start, so it's over here. So then you just need to bear in mind that it's currently right behind you. So now that you've turned the camera around, it's down here. So it's just trying to keep all this awareness in mind, because basically, like, you should know that it's down here, but it just means that once you get down here, I think you just got a little confused as to where you were in the stage layout, and then there's just this big roundabout route, which is obviously really not necessary at all, as long as you just are keeping the stage layout in the back of your mind. I make the same mistake in Wild Canyon a lot. Like, I don't really make that mistake in Aquatic Mine. I do make that mistake in Wild Canyon all the time. For, like, not knowing which side of the main room I need to be when I go back down. That's surprisingly common for me, so I know how it feels. Because I do need to just work on my general Wild Canyon awareness. Okay, second try clip. And
holy shit, dude.
Not too bad. A 31 is a 31. Yeah, the RNG was pretty nice there.
So even if I'm losing time on this
Right, so
I can save time on Hidden Breath and Primitive.
Route 101 is likely not going to have too much to talk about, but we'll see. I mean, the first turn was like a little wide here. I can tell you that you're on the not first play of a session because of where the taxi was, so there's no intro boost here. Yeah, the drifting is...
Come on, no, race.
Oh, actually, I'm looking at your input cam and you are actually not just going left, right, left, right, left, right on the control stick. You're actually just wiggling it along the circumference, which is different. I'm gonna like give that a go myself now because I've never really actually tried that. It doesn't seem on first impression that it will be great, but I'll have a go with it. Yeah, for me this feels really weird, but I'm just not used to doing this. I'm not so sure about this form of drifting, for me at least. I personally think this is just more awkward to control. But, yeah. The general way that a lot of people do the drifting, instead, me included, is just doing left, right on the control stick, as though we're trying to do rapid pivot turns, like anywhere else's tails. Like, alright. I guess Mission Street works. This is just, I guess, what a lot of people are trying to do with drifting. And it does show with the amount of pivots that I'm missing that there is a lot of deviation that often happens with people's control stick angles. Like, people generally have a tendency to not move directly left to directly right. But yeah, it's just odd. I don't really recall seeing this method of drifting in Route 101 before, because I was going to say that the only thing that's really sticking out to me here is that the turns are just wide. Like, the amount that you're actually drifting, you're still driving like relatively straight. Like, this is still pretty straight driving.
That looks good so far.
But it's just the turns that look fairly wide to me, which is more just a timing thing than anything else. But with the way that you're doing the turns here, I'm wondering if that is working against you for getting tight turns.
Victor, welcome back. Thank you for good luck again. You come at the right time for good pace. I got 0 cycle and good RNG on Aquatic Mine, so that's pretty good right now.
Yeah, like, this is just difficult. This is just difficult for me to say whether the wide turns that I'm seeing, if it is a result of the way that you are doing all of the movement here. By just moving along the circumference of the stick, I actually don't know here.
Need to be focused a little bit. It's gonna be hard.
So I don't really know what to suggest here.
I need to be focused on the stage because it's very easy to fuck up. I will do my best to read chat when I can.
I mean, for the most part, though, like, it's still okay.
So I did miss 2 boosts so far, so that's pretty
Like, obviously, it's an improvable Route 101, but it's not a terrible one. Okay, I will say, though, that for this turn, for this specific turn, you should try and take this turn tight, because you, not only are you turning here, but you're also taking an upslope. And as you can see, the left-hand side of the upslope has considerably more distance to cover than the right-hand side. So if you're on the left side of this slope rather than the right-hand side, you will lose more speed, because you're spending more time on an upslope. So you want to try and take this turn as tight as you can. If you're going to take any turn in the stage tight, you want to take that turn tight. Because, like I say, spending more time on this upslope will make you go slower. So that's the one thing that I'm going to say about your Route 101 in general, that if there's one thing you can work on, it's just taking the turns tighter, especially that last turn. Excuse me. Okay, so I think I know why you missed this. Yeah, I think you were just angling it too far to the right at the wrong time, and the position that you are here really influences whether you can get this last dynamite pack. This dynamite pack fucking sucks. Like, I'll get my game feed up again. The problem with this dynamite pack is that if you're in the wrong place, you're not going to hit it regardless of anything else. Just get the enemy out of the way. Like, if you're way out here, for instance, you can see that nothing I can do here actually targets the dynamite pack. Like, you look relatively close to it and you just don't get it. And it's because I'm just too far to the right here. So, like, once you go more to the left, then you can get it. But by the same token, if you are going towards, like, moving towards the right like that, then obviously you're not going to target them. And, yeah. So what you instead ideally want to be doing is facing slightly left around here to get all three of them. So you want to, like, try and be just running in a straight line like this, and then just tilt to the left slightly, and then tilt back to the right. Hopefully, like, something like this. Like, that's the fastest, pretty much the fastest you can take that section. And it also means that you ideally want to land to the left of this metal crate here, rather than jumping straight over the metal crate, which can be a little awkward to judge, because if you just land on the left to the side of it, then you can get trapped by it, and you can still end up in a slightly awkward position. But being leveled out by the time you land here will mean that you won't lose speed from cornering also. Because, like, the other thing that can happen instead is that, like, if you just land like this and then turn to the left, then you lose speed from cornering too sharply. Which is why the best approach here is to, like, try and land on the left side, and then just tilt to the left very slightly to get all three lock-ons like that, and then just carry on as normal. Yeah, all I can say is just practice this section a lot. Like, this is like the first 5-6 seconds of the stage, so you can practice this over and over. Just practice it a lot, and it will come a lot more naturally, because this is more muscle memory than anything else.
So bad starts. I hate missing bad dynamites. Right, we can still gaming.
Okay, axle jump route.
Not fucked up the rest. Okay.
So if you're going to do axle jump, I instead recommend getting out of bounds as soon as possible. Don't restart. Don't exit game, I mean. So I instead recommend just trying to hover jump here. And just get out as soon as you can. And then the other important thing to note is I need to restart from here. There was some camera control that I used there. So if I do this one more time. And I'll pause buffer slightly when I get there so I have more time to demonstrate what I mean. Basically, the problem that you have here in this situation is that when I move towards where I'm trying to go, the camera is not very well situated for me to see where I'm going to land. Like, I can't see where I'm going to land. But when you're out of bounds like this as Tails, if you just tap a camera button, like L or R, then it switches to free cam. And now I can see where I'm going to land. So now I just wait until where I want to land just goes off the bottom of the screen, and then I just drop and you land very easily. This is important in hidden base in general, because there are a lot of sections where you go, like, slightly out of bounds, and in those situations it's camera control that you want to be thinking about. Like, again, just tap a shoulder button to force free cam and you will generally have a much easier time with navigation. You don't need a good pause hover at all. I'm assuming that you're talking about the fence itself, because the midpoint of the fence looks like it's not as high. Like, I'm gonna go back in the video here. Yeah, this is a common misconception. The fence is actually the same height the entire way across. It's purely visual, but the actual solid object, it's the same height the entire way across. So it's just as easy the entire way across the fence. I know it looks like it's lower here, but if it... Like, I'll demonstrate one more time just to show what I mean. I may be able to backtrack from here, actually. I can't see where I am. Okay, good. Alright, so... If this midpoint of the fence was actually just flat out lower, then... Like, you can see that I'm getting over it like that, but, it's still trying to push me back in. Even once I get, like, over it. And it's pretty much the same. Like, in effect, it is pretty much the same the entire way across. So, yeah, you can just go out as early as you can manage there.
Okay. Should be 25.
So, okay, so even if you are going to, like, do it at this midpoint, your priority should be just getting grounded as soon as possible. Like I say, once the target, i.e. this point here, goes off the bottom of the screen, you can just drop down and you'll land safely, and then being grounded is faster than being in the air, so you want to run towards the next pulley rather than fly towards it. It's just going to be slightly faster. And then I want to see how you got off this pulley as well.
Should be 25, 26, okay.
Yeah, so you can afford to go slightly earlier on this pulley release as well, because you basically waited here until it was at its highest point before letting go. Yeah, like the pulley is pretty much at the top before you let go, and you can afford to go quite a bit earlier than that. So I'll just demonstrate here. Like, I don't have very much height here, but barely, not enough. But I didn't have a pulse hover coming off that either. So, like, you can get considerably more height there. For once, I'll try to do, like, a pulse hover off an ascending pulley. I really don't do this very often, but I'll try just for the sake of demonstration. Lol, the urn's slowing me down. And I've got tons more height here now. And I still came off the pulley fairly early, and you can still pretty comfortably make it over.
Okay, got it.
Doing a short hover here is really not necessary to make this gap. Like, at this specific point here, like you jumped and you hovered here, you can make this gap pretty much with a short hop and not doing anything else. I'll show here. Like, all I did was a short hop there, not even with full speed, and still make it across. Like, that shouldn't be a problem. Because with hidden base, just one of the optimizations you should always have in the forefront of your mind is spending as much time on the ground as possible. The more time you spend in the air, the slower you're going as Tails. Didn't get all the dynamites there, but whatever. Just, if you're able to be on the ground, you want to be on the ground. And technically doing that is very slightly faster as well. Like, I also jump off there quite often myself just for the extra height. Although this is quite a generous hover jump and you arguably don't need very much extra height at all. That was quite nice there though. That's not going to make it. So you bailed out correctly at least. Like, you didn't try to commit to it when you clearly weren't going to make it.
It's not very good hidden base so far. I can still save time anyway, but it's not
Arguably, there's a case that can be made here for just trying to
Still save time anyway.
for just trying to shoot towards this door a bit earlier. I actually wait a little longer before getting off this pulley, so that I can just have a bit more airtime here approaching the door and hopefully shoot it down before I reach it. This door is like really awkward though, and I'm gonna be dead here now. Lol.
It's not fucked up.
I don't really like shooting around there because it actually just increases the chance that you're going to shoot the bomb. And then if you do, that thing has a huge lingering hitbox that really easily hits you. Yeah, this is kind of going back to what I was saying about just like jerky, wiggly movement in general. There's just a lot of just wiggling that's going on here. Like, you're just very unsteady in general. It's not a huge thing, it's just, again, if you want to, like, take a game to the next level, so to speak, this is the sort of thing that you need to be looking at, just making your movement as steady as possible. And you can move off this pulley slightly earlier as well. Because with this pulley, pretty much as soon as you see it start taking you up, like, pretty much at this point, you can just hover jump off it now. Rather than waiting a lot longer before you reach this point. Because once you cross this gap, you can see that when Tails hits this pulley, the game forces him down quite a bit. So basically, that's how much spare height you had. Because Tails is going to end up at this point anyway. So all of that time that you spent going up, like, that's just frames that can be saved from releasing the pulley a bit earlier, because you do honestly get quite a bit more height than it seems. That's unfortunate. Like, I was gonna say, like, I don't really disagree with doing a jump and or a hover to try and avoid these enemies here, but this guy still hit you. That's a bit unfortunate. The amount of time that you are, like, spending in the air and hovering around here, though, this honestly is killing quite a lot of speed. Like, the amount of time that you hover there, it just makes this entire section actually quite a bit slower than it needs to be. Which, the amount that you are going slower also kind of prevents you from taking the optimal path here, which is just like a hover jump across here, rather than taking this sort of path that you took here. Like, at the speed you were going, you pretty much needed to do what you did here to be safe here.
Okay, I almost died.
That's the optimal path you can take there, though. And if possible, at the end here, you do want to try and land...
Okay, I almost died.
You want to, like, try and land around here if you can, and run along the fence here. Because if you just run up left against this fence, it does push you along faster. And the only thing you need to consider is that you do need to get the lock-ons on the enemies. So if you can get the lock-ons really fast, then just get back in bounds as soon as possible, and just run along the fence, and you will go slightly faster.
Okay, but we're good, we're still gaining. Okay.
All 3 lock-ons there, nice. I really need to actually learn how to get those quick, because I'm really bad at estimating the angle for that. That was quite a nice release, though. Not a lot of people actually do that well. Like, again, it's like waiting slightly longer than necessary to let go of that pulley, but you still do it faster than a lot of other people that I see, where you can afford to release that pulley quite a bit sooner than you'd think, because you can see here, like, you have some spare height for making it on here. Quite a bit of spare height, actually. Like, you're waiting quite a long time to land there. So it's really not necessary to wait as long as a lot of people do. And you squeeze it more than I've seen other people do. Alright, so... yeah. This is how I see a lot of people do the start of Pyramid Cave. And it's like, yeah. What you did here, like, it works because you got the spin dash after you ran into the speed pad at the start. But it still looked like a little awkward to me. I'm gonna just have a bit of a play around with this quickly. Again, I don't have an input cam on screen, but... so if I'm holding upright from the very start of gaining control of Sonic, that's what typically results in, like, not getting the speed pads, or getting onto the speed pads before the spin dash comes out, like that. And I saw what you were doing there was like a bit weird that you were neutral stick until you had control of Sonic and then you started moving up right. But actually what typically results in the best results here is having down left input and then doing a clockwise rotation to upright. Like, that sounds counterintuitive, but like, I'm going to do it here. You're going to be able to see that Sonic is falling down left to begin with, and I will actually reach the speed pads before my spin dash comes out a lot more easily, possibly even land on the speed pads. Like, I'm way past the speed pads before the spin dash comes out there, and again. And I landed on the speed pads there. So, like, that's... It seems really counterintuitive to do that, but it actually works. Like, yeah, it seems weird, but that is actually what you're supposed to do there if you want to get on the speed pads earlier. That's one of the weirder quirks of Hero Story, in my opinion. And it's a minor thing, but it's worth knowing. So the only thing that I think is worth noting here is... Well, actually, there's two things that I want to mention here. So as you get this geometry bounce, like, you have some spare airtime here, which means you may as well land on the right side instead of the left side. Because, like, if you end up here, like, on any particular bounce up here, you're going to have, like, a set amount of height. So you're going to, like, land on this platform at the same time, regardless of where on the left or right that you are. Which means that you may as well land on the right side because it's simply a bit closer to where you're trying to go. Like, if you land here, then you've got a longer jump to get across to this spot. Whereas if you start on the right, then you've got a straighter and slightly shorter path. It just ends up being slightly faster to take a shorter path here. And a part of that is that when you then did this next jump, you actually got, like, a lot more height and a bit more airtime than necessary. And again, more airtime generally means you're losing bits of time. Because, like, when you do this jump here, like, you've got tons of air here and you're already slowing down quite a bit, and then homing attacking there. It can just be a straighter path and quite a bit less airtime. All in one. I'm going super slow here. So ideally, like I say, you just want to land on the right side if you can. Like this. And then you can get away with having less airtime there, which should hopefully result in that being a little bit faster. Doing the spin dash hover there is definitely correct though, so I definitely agree with doing the spin dash hover there, rather than a spin dash jump. So that was good. And this is, again, this is another example of what I mean about just the jerky style movement just working against you a little bit here, because you are holding straight up here, still holding straight up as you do the first spin dash, still holding straight up. And it's at this point that you are starting to change the control stick to the left, because, like, you know that you're going to need to end up to the left here. If you wait until you're, like, at this sort of spot, this is a lot more difficult to gauge, because if you don't go left enough, you'll still hit this and it will cut your speed. And if you go too far left, then you'll hit the wall and it will also cut your speed. And since you are closer to this point here, where you need to be on the left-hand side, the angle that you need to take is now a lot sharper, so this is just more difficult to pull off in this situation, rather than trying to take a slightly smoother turn from the very start of the hallway. And you still, like, basically did it right, it's just a little less efficient and it's more difficult to gauge. I'll try and get, like, the counterpoint example here. Like, I'll try and just do a smooth turn from the start of the hallway, if I can. Yeah, and I fucked that up, so what do I know? You can see, like, what I'm trying to do, though. The ideal situation is to, like, be turning here so that you just do one smooth path like that. I'll die and like try it one more time because I didn't like have the entrance that I even expected there from hitting the enemy. Oh, I've got free cam here now though. It sucks. Free cam is probably just going to make this more difficult. We'll see. So I kind of did it in between what I was suggesting and how you did it, partly because of the free cam being there, but yeah, you can kind of see what I'm driving towards there.
Oh, that sucks.
Okay, nice. Bouncing on the rail and waiting a little bit before you did it so that you didn't go straight through it. Okay, I think the way that you're tackling door skip is introducing a little bit of unnecessary difficulty here. I am pretty convinced from all the testing that I've done on door skip that it is made easier by being closer to the door. So like this is vaguely the spot that you want to do it. You're like doing it from like around here. And it seems a very minor adjustment, but I honestly find door skip a lot easier if you do it from around here. Like, if you take this floor seam, where it joins up at these three spots, as your exact point that you're basically using as a visual reference, then I tried to have Sonic here, but then I tried to have Sonic, like, a little ahead of it, like, somewhere around here. And I honestly find that this works very well for me. And I immediately miss it. It's possible to have really awkward collision here, though, caused by various things. Dude, I can't get back through. I don't want to restart from here. But if that position for door skip is, like, working for you generally, then that's the important thing, that you've got a method that gets you through. That's just my personal recommendation for door skips, starting slightly closer than you think you need to be. My theory for why it helps it work is that you may have slightly more speed when you reach the door, which just increases the probability that you're going to get through. That's my theory. Because, like, it shouldn't really put you in a different position, so to speak. I like the snake skip. Yeah, this... I myself need to find, like, a more consistent method for the snake. Personally, I think you can put yourself in a better position by going further to the left here. Like, I think if you cross the midpoint of this hallway and end up, like, on the left side of this Eggman emblem, I think you'll get a straighter camera, which makes this hallway in general just a little easier to gauge, because if you don't have a completely straight path to the snake head, then you are not going to have an easy time lining this up regardless. And as you found here, it's really easy to get all sorts of very bad spin dashes and positions there. So, like I say, I myself do need to do more testing here, but my theory is that the further left you go initially there, I think that's probably going to give you a better camera to work with here. And hopefully not have this happen so much. Like, if you can react to it quickly and recover from it quickly, then it will only lose a couple of seconds, which isn't too bad. This here, though. Okay, so, this is one movement thing here that I just don't really like here. First of all, you are holding a spin dash up an upslope, which in general is a movement no-no. You just don't want to hold spin dashes up slopes, because this is, like, all the time that you're holding this spin dash, it's slowing you down, which is not preferable, and it basically makes it random whether you're going to stick to this floor as well, which in this instance you didn't. The more consistent method for doing this, I'll get my screen up here, and I need to play through the stage a bit now. Thanks, Ghost, get off. Generally, the accepted, more consistent method is to do a spin dash chain from the slope itself. so that you have a bit more speed going up it, and hopefully the act of doing a spin dash chain should stick you to the floor as well. So that's kind of what I mean about going a bit more left there to hopefully get a more convenient camera there also. But so I don't really bounce into the hourglass here, which is an option. I instead just do this. But when I land here, you can potentially end up in the same sort of position anyway. You want to just do a bounce excel first of all into a spin dash charge, which gives you your first spin dash charge like here, somewhere around here. And then you just want to chain the spin dash for going over the crest of the hill. And that helps you stick to the floor really easily there. So I think that's a good approach to take.
Ready? Okay.
Nice gravity bounce at the end though. All in all, not too bad.
People like this thing. That's the point, but
Okay, so let's look at Death Chamber. Okay, so this, I don't think there's really a consensus on the best way to take the start of this stage. Personally, I prefer to check for the free pieces before I do anything else, or rather, I prefer to simultaneously check for the free pieces and go for the hourglass at the start, so something like this. So right as the stage begins, I'm holding L, and then I'm just rotating the camera and going for the hourglass like this, whilst simultaneously checking for both pieces, and then I just go for the hint like that, and then carry on with whatever else I'm doing. And it almost, within reason, it almost doesn't matter how you handle the start of hunting stages, like doing things in a specific order like that, as long as you are following a very specific order, because this is something that I think I brought up in Master Korok's PB, that with the start of the hunting stages, because there are things that are going to happen, like seeing free pieces that will basically interrupt your plan and your flow, it's very helpful to just have a consistent strategy that you're sticking to at the start of the knuckle stages, because once you like dither, and once you just start forgetting what you're supposed to do, that's when you start losing just seconds from just basically interrupting your own train of thought and not following what you're supposed to be doing. So if that's what you do at the start of Death Chamber, as long as you are strictly doing that at the start every time, pretty much regardless of what happens, then, you know, it's not too bad. Like, even if it's not objectively the fastest way to take the start of the stage, practically it will probably save you some time on average just from you not making a lot of mistakes from thinking too much on the spot. So just have a way that you consistently do the start of every knuckle stage, even if it's a slightly suboptimal method. For this specific spot, you do want to be corner climbing. That's something that I will say that this is something you should just be doing always. Like in this spot you were in. So rather than just climbing like this, you instead want to be climbing like this, just climb into the corner, because knuckles will go up faster. Like, we can just see a direct comparison here. Like, normal climbing speed and corner climbing speed. It is just faster than the regular climbing speed. Like, so, again, I'm doing up here, and then up left, and then I'll switch to up left halfway up the wall. You can see that Knuckles very clearly accelerates if you just climb into the corner. So try and do that as much as possible as well, like not just in this spot, but in general. If you can do that in a Knuckles stage, it's faster to climb along the corner of a wall like that. Oh, yeah, that's a problem. That happens to me a lot as well. At least you got speed shoes. Let's fucking go. And then, movement. Oh, it got so fast though! I love it! Okay, so general tip here, because you are waiting around to be able to die here, what would have been helpful to do is like take a damage boost on this enemy as you're going towards the piece. like, you have rings, so you're going to need to take 2 hits before you can die.
Also, this thing
So you may as well have just made sure that you took a hit on this enemy, made sure you avoided these rings, and then as soon as you get the piece here, this would have been a death, rather than need to wait for your iframes to run out, basically.
This death is intentional.
Instant respawn piece though, nice. Roasted keys. Like, I'm really split on whether it's worth getting a hint in this instance. If the radar is yellow when you get back in, I think it can only be one of 4 pieces. I think a yellow radar when you spawn is either Roasted Keys, Tilted Picture, Bugs Chatting, or Bugs Baby. And so I don't really know if it's worth getting a hint, because you can check Roasted and Tilted very quickly just from flying slightly closer and seeing if it turns red. If it's not, then it's going to be one of the other 2. But because the problem with getting a hint here is that now you need to wait for your next hint to find where your 3rd piece is. And, like, you're hanging around for a couple of seconds here. So I really am not sure whether it's actually worth getting a hint for the 2nd piece. I always do, just on reflex. I do the same thing that you do. Because, like, the worst thing that can happen here is that you accidentally trigger Omochao, and then he is flying around for nearly 10 seconds, giving you stuff that you don't want to hear, and then you can't get a hint in that time, so it's like, I don't know. I think it's probably worth doing some testing on whether you actually want to get a hint for yellow respawn pieces. Like I say, currently I myself, I do run like that, and I don't really know. Oh, Nape of the Neck is also a yellow respawn. That seems, I mean, I guess that is right from where you actually start. But either way, yeah.
Right.
So then Bug Tree, so then going towards green.
Can you?
Yeah, I prefer to just get a little bit extra height here. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can take this hallway. But if you are taking this method where you get the bounce off the enemy like that, I would just make sure that you get a little bit of extra height to make sure that you do fly into this hourglass instead of landing before it. That's just something I like to do.
Can you?
Because, yeah, then making a mistake there generally causes a bit of time loss, which compounds itself. And again, I'm not sure. I also don't really have any particular numbers for this, but I find that when you're going from red towards green, I personally prefer to go down to the floor early. Like this. Well, not like that, but like this, and then just run like that. I'm not sure whether that's faster or not, but that's just the route that I prefer to take there, rather than do it in multiple different segments. And then just a bit too early on this dig. Yeah, that's the run.
Damn it.
Like, I think it looks faster as well. The movement is a little more difficult for it. Well, it's actually considerably more difficult. Because if you, as you can see, you can punch too early and not get an acceleration. Or if you punch too far to the left, you can just hit the hourglass and get stopped completely. So it's not free to do that. But I've gotten pretty consistent at it as I've practiced it. So let's see King Boom Boo. So, first of all, there's no restart abuse here, which is something that you can just be going for free. If what you're going for is IGT, which I'm pretty sure it is, I mean, it's what you're using in the splits, then you should just be using a restart abuse here. Just try and restart the fight as soon as you can. You'll save a fraction of a second. For free. Same thing as well on Green Forest and Bigfoot if you really want to go for it. On Bigfoot, then you do run the risk of getting a bad start due to the thing, though. Yes, the thing. Due to Omochao breaking the boxes. As far as when you actually go for King Boom Boo, though, this can actually be considerably faster. I'm already noticing. Generally, I look at the pace of a King Boom Boo fight by looking at the timer on different events. And for me, I look at what the in-game timer reads when it switches to the skylight view. And this is going to be about 21 seconds, I estimate. Oh, more now. Okay, so like 22.3 pretty much. And you can honestly get that camera shift like at least a couple of seconds earlier. Specifically, what I noticed here is like when you start moving towards him during this fire throwing cycle. So he's always going to throw 4 fireballs at the start. And like this starting angle that Knuckles is running at, this is about correct. This is what I do as well. But I start turning my angle to run more sharply towards him after he throws the second fireball. Like after the second fireball lands, that's when I start moving around. So, 1, boom. So at this point, I've already started running around more sharply. Whereas you're staying here, staying here, staying here. And the point at which you can safely get close to the ghost is when his breathing in sound effect happens. So as soon as that sound plays, that's when you can safely get close to the ghost without it running away. And the ghost doesn't run away until you have a direct line of sight with it and until you are within a certain range of it. So pretty much at this point, like if you'd gone too early, it would be at about this point that the ghost starts running away. So there is like a full second difference here. There's almost a 2-second difference, actually. Yeah, it's like a second and a half to like 2 seconds. So just again to go back and highlight it again. So 1. So this is when I start running around. So that hopefully at this point where the sound effect plays, I'm already starting to get close to the ghost. And like you can play around with it a few times to make sure that you're not like misjudging it and going too early. But I think you can like stand to squeeze quite a bit more time out of this if this is how you're always doing King Boom Boo. And then yeah, make sure that you get the B input early enough to actually hit the ghost, obviously. You can try and do like the jump that you do here when you gain control. So you like pressed the A button a few times, but then you basically did wait until you had control of Knuckles and did a double A input. I pretty much just mashed the A button, waiting to have control of Knuckles. Because like by the time that you see that you've done a jump and glide, you'll react to that and you'll stop mashing at the right time, so that you just do the jump and glide. And then that gets you moving very quickly, and then you can just do a punch when you land on the ground. And that tends to me to be a very fast way to get the second part of the fight going. And then same thing for when you dig out the ground here, that like once you start digging, like once I'm in the ground here, I'm just mashing A again, waiting for Knuckles to get out. And then as soon as I can see that I'm out and I've done a glide, as soon as I'm out of the ground, you can just punch after you've hit the ground. So just mash and then B once you hit the ground. And you can get moving really quickly.
Losing speed. Should be fine.
As far as how to time these individual hits, this is something I brought up in the last analysis, I think, that he will do 5 red flashes. Like, after he lands on the ground, there will be, like, 5 more red flashes per cycle. That's his iframes. So pretty much when you see, like, the 5th red flash after he's landed on the ground, you can just punch, and it should be correctly timed. So I'm going to slow it down here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's like 6 flashes on that first one. And I find generally on hits 2 and 3, like 5 seems to be the magic number. Again, like the flashes that occur after he's landed back on the ground. We'll see with these ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now he's vulnerable. So you can see that there's quite a bit of spare time in between each hit that you're being safe. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this should be the last one. Oh, okay, so there was a 6th one, but it lasted like barely any time. So again, punching at the same time, you wouldn't have missed that last hit waiting for the 5th red hit. And again, if you're waiting to be able to see the 5th red hit, human reaction time is like you'll be waiting like an extra like 2/10 of a second before actually doing the input if you're waiting until you can see the flash. So you shouldn't miss the hits from going too early. So if we play that back like again to speed, it is still slow enough that you can like follow the number of flashes.
Don't miss the ghosts.
So let's like try and follow what I'm saying here. We're getting him based on the red flashes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch.
Should be fine.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 punch. You can use that method quite reliably if you know what you're looking for to get the hits as close together as you can. Because like ending up with a 49 there is like I've gotten 44s without a restart abuse, and I consider like a high 44 to be a pretty good fight there. So there is like quite a bit of time that can be squeezed there.
Alright.
Oh, the super bounces. Oh, beautiful. Well, I mean, they're really hard here, but oh, beautiful. The super bounces. Please, one more for one cycle. Oh, this lad. One cycle fight. Let's go. Very good. Oh, this is beautiful. Alright, I'm gonna look at your inputs again here for landing on the arm, though. Okay, so, this is something that, like I've said in the past, I don't particularly like this approach for getting on the arm when people do this. What you're doing on the input cam here is down with a little bit of left. I am like very convinced that holding down right is actually the correct thing to do here, because you gain control of Sonic a lot more easily, and then once you've landed you can just turn back around to down left and just do it normally. I'm going to try and get a couple of comparative examples here. Hopefully a couple of good fights. Ouch! I'm gonna wait, because I want to get the hit from here so that I get the right rebound when I do the... this might not work now. Okay, so it will. So again, I don't have an input cam, but for this first attempt I'm just going to be holding down left on the control stick, and whether Sonic actually stays on the arm, I won't really be able to guarantee it. Okay, so like he did here, but it was a bit awkward. So by contrast, I'm going to try this again and try to do the thing where I hold down right once I land on the arm. Doing bad here. Excuse me, sir, ma'am. And he's going to hit me out the air. Oh, other one. So I really don't know about actually landing on his arm here, but we'll see. Not from this position. Okay, still. So this time, I'm going to be holding down right as I land, and I'm going to wait until Sonic's actually landed on the arm before I do a clockwise rotation to down left. And I should immediately have control of Sonic. Like that. Like, it's kind of like the start of Pyramid Cave, where it seems counterintuitive to do it. I am convinced that it's safer, though. For just more consistently getting favourable positions on Egg Golem on the arm. And not ending up in an awkward situation like that, basically.
Very nice Egg Golem.
But yes, you're right, that was a very nice Egg Golem. That was very, very good.
Let's go, gamer. Holy...
I liked it.
Choke can happen everywhere right now.
So I'm expecting to see a
Anyway.
skip here.
One, I mean.
Start.
But...
Is slowing down quite considerably there just to make sure you don't hit the door, which I like argue isn't really necessary to slow down that much, but it's more important than just running into the door itself. So it's whatever. I don't particularly like waiting until you've reached the top of the pulley here before jumping off, because, like, I mean, the problem here is you can't see where you are, so you can't see when you have enough height to make the gap. But the game tells you that you've reached the top of the pulley by, like, the bouncing effect. The problem with this is that I'm convinced that if you do a hover jump at the bottom of the pulley's bounce cycle, that actually doesn't give you enough height to cross the gap, which, because you can't really consistently time it, sometimes it will just happen on its own without you being able to help it. So what I try to do here instead is just basically judge when I'm going to need to go as it's about to reach the top, and then I just go on my own before it's reached the top. But that does take quite a bit of practice to get used to. Right, you can't see how high you are, Kinky, but if you want to actually wait until you can see where you are, you need to wait a very long time. And if you're just waiting for the bouncing animation, then like I say, you could accidentally end up on the bottom of the bounce cycle. And then it's like, you're failing it, and it's just not even your fault that you're getting it wrong. So, taking a death here without even attempting on the right-hand side, I'm definitely not sure how much I agree with this, but if you've tried the right side a lot and you find that you just, like, can't get it, it doesn't work for you. Yeah, if you can't do it on the right side, then if you borderline know that you're not going to get it on the right side, I suppose it's the correct thing to do to not waste attempts on it. But, I mean, I like to just get as many attempts as this clip out as I can, because, you know, this clip out is just really weird, and occasionally you'll accidentally get a right-hand side attempt that will work. But if you're convinced that this is the right thing to do for you, then I'm not going to object to it.
Alright, second try.
Second try at least, though, yeah.
How was the stream? Welcome, guys, from...
Let's see where you're going.
I'm Sora.
Like, second try is obviously better than nothing. Oh, that was odd.
Right now I'm at good pace.
Angle looks about right from what I'm seeing.
So if I can get the goal, of
yeah,
course.
And then the Q on the right-hand side is... I mean, it's different on 16.9, but it's still... I can kind of correlate it. You actually get a bit more visual information to work with on 16.9. Okay, and then... yeah, ending up really close there. So, like, this free fall time that you have here is exactly why I fall for 2 seconds as I'm going towards it. Because that's basically how much time you spend falling there anyway. So I just prefer to do that falling time before I get anywhere near the skip, personally. But that was Eternal Engine, and it was just a skip, so congratulations, you got the skip. Well done. Alright, Meteor Turd. 0-5. Not a very good first piece in my opinion, but we'll see. This is one situation where, like, I actually don't think it's worth being grounded here because of the really weird slope mechanics that are at work on this thing. Like, the way that this panned out here, I don't think that's faster, personally. This RNG is shit. So, yes, since you want to end up around here, you may as well just bear to the right here. Like, I can just go into Meteor Herd here and demonstrate. So I'm just going to assume that I have 0-5 as my first piece, and that I'm going to end up with needing to go up top. So, oh, what a garbage first piece. So, first of all, I think it's just better to land naturally like that and punch to get going. But then if you know that you're going to need to go up top here, I would just, like, try and end up around here. And then you can just climb diagonally like this to still get the height, and you end up really close to the spring there. I think that's generally preferable.
Everything else on top is
rather than then having a lot of distance to run here to the spring.
No, I can still save time, it will depend on the third piece. No free piece.
Okay, so yeah, the free piece check there. It's, yeah, not really possible to say whether it's good or bad.
I love this song, holy crap.
So something that, like, may help you a little bit here is that I use a specific spot to do a glide reset on the way to this piece, just to maintain my height so that I don't have to glide, so that I don't have to land and then jump and get going again. Like, once I round this corner here, like, once I just get around this corner, that's when I do a glide reset, which generally gives me the right height to just glide into that piece. Like, the piece is probably not going to be here, but you're going to see that I'm in the general sort of area for it. Fucked up. I'll go back down and do it again, because starting from a pause is always awkward. Like, you can see that that's generally the right spot for getting the piece all in one. And conveniently, it's the same sort of thing for going around the other side to Gun's machine protecting the arc. Like, I may as well demonstrate that while I'm here. That you can do the same on the other side. Go around here, first of all. Then once you get, like, around here, just... If you do, like, a glide reset there, you'll basically have the right height there. And I think it works out quite nicely.
My favorite Knuckle stage.
Oh, did you miss wandering between... Yeah. Well, this is something that I was wondering at the start of the stage, but from where you came from, I think... Yeah, this is the opposite side that you would be normally entering from, so it's very difficult at best to see this piece, because basically the piece is on this side. Like, currently it's, like, in this corner down here. So unless you do a lot of camera rotation here from this side, you're not going to see it anyway. So I don't think missing this piece was entirely your fault.
You can get it, actually.
Nice grab, though.
Saving time, so that's good.
In case you are not aware, though. Okay, okay. I can definitely show you how to consistently see that piece from the other side, though. Because if you're just entering from the regular side, you definitely shouldn't be missing that as a free piece check, and I'll show you how here. So, under regular circumstances, you just do something like this. You'd be like going up here, and then you'd be landing here. And yeah, the camera isn't very conveniently situated here, so that you don't have very much time to see this general area where the piece is. But one thing you can do after you take that spring is use the camera triggers to force free cam. So if you hold R, like it's holding R here, which is causing the camera to rotate anti-clockwise. But obviously if I continue to hold R, it's just going to continue to rotate. So I still don't get a very good view of it. So what you can do is hold R for a short time to get it to rotate to the right spot, and then if you hold L as well, holding both of them at the same time will fix the camera in place. So you can get a very good view like this. Like, you get a super good view of the spot there, and you have a few seconds to look for the piece before you are in a spot to grab the rocket here. So you can really consistently look for the piece like that.
Piece, actually, I always check
just so you're aware of that.
It's a very rare piece, actually. And you can get it easily.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Whatever, we're still gaming.
Bert. Okay, so I've basically just got the same gripe here as, like, again, everyone else who does this fight with, if you're not going to squeeze as much time save as you can from the ringless strat, it's borderline not worth going for, in my opinion. Like, the jump is a little sooner than I see a lot of other people do anyway, but, like, the camera's already fully inverted by the time you're gliding towards it like this, and then you've got quite a high jump, so there's more frames before you're colliding with her as well, and it's like, I just think if you're going to do this ringless strat, it's really worth squeezing as much time as you can from it. And you do that by paying close attention to when you can start the fight. Which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames from now. Like when the text disappears and when the camera starts moving, that's when you have control of Knuckles, and I think that is 6 frames from now. It's skipping. There's the 0.5 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the camera like starts moving now. So it's like 5 frames, 6 frames from there. Like, as soon as 8.0 on the clock is passed, again, if you wait until you see like 8.0 on the clock and then react to that, you will have control of Knuckles like right away. And then you can just do the inputs pretty much as fast as you can manage. And as long as the timing is correct on drill diving into her when you're above her, you should hit her regardless. And based on the time you spend gliding, it's going to be the same amount of time gliding towards her because you're doing it with directionless input. Yeah, like, you only really started using directional input here until you were basically above her. And then I don't really like using the rapid drill dive strats here because it just forces you to spend a lot more time on the ground. But it works for a lot of people, so it's whatever. People aren't really going to stop doing that. But I have gone off using rapid drill dive strats like that, and as you've seen from my streams, I prefer to just jump around her and time when to drill dive into her. Sonic. Okay, this was a pretty nice start.
Yo, Amy, I hope you're proud of me because
so, same thing here as in Pyramid Cave when I mentioned about not holding a spin dash going uphill. You also just don't want to hold ball form going on a straight line as well. So the way you just let this spin dash roll, it's not the worst thing in the world because this isn't a very long hallway, but it is still, like, technically a bad habit that you could do without breaking. Ideally, just what you want to do is unroll from the spin dash as soon as possible and do a spin dash chain to conserve as much speed as you can, because you can still do a super bounce in the same place. So you want to instead just do something like this. Like, you can do that super bounce in the running form, and you'll be going slightly faster in the running form. Still got the game highlighted.
I hope you're proud of me because I'm gonna do something very risky for you. Okay, Amy? That's a proof I love you, okay?
Pretty good though, not bad, not bad.
I kill myself to save you, so I hope you will gaming, Amy.
It's not that running form is faster per se, it's that you won't decelerate as fast when you're in the running form. Like, if you just let the spin dash roll, pretty much as soon as the spin dash comes out, you will start decelerating. Whereas there is a short period after you unroll from a spin dash and you're running where you don't decelerate. And this is why we do spin dash chaining. Like, this is why spin dash chaining on a flat is faster than just letting a spin dash roll and unchaining less periodically. Because it just conserves the speed more effectively. Like, it's a frame saver more than anything else. But again, at this level, like with you having like a 36 PB and starting to get really good times, it's getting the fundamentals as good as possible that you want to be paying attention to. Or obviously you know how to run the game, you know where all the pieces are, how to actually do the stages. The objective now is to work on your basics, like fundamentals, as much as possible, just to try and develop as many good habits as you can, because it'll make you more consistent as well.
I'm joking, guys. Don't worry. But I'm technically gonna die, that's true.
So I don't really disagree with homing, jumping and homing, attacking onto that spring, onto that rail, because the rail is fucking awful. CGSS. The way you got out there, actually, I'm going to take another look at that. Okay, the direction that you're holding the control stick here, this looks more awkward than it needs to be for me, but if this method works for you, then I suppose. Yeah, you're bouncing really early here to make up the distance. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Like, once you get out of bounds, you're holding, like, upright on the control stick with more right than up. But that still seems like more up than isn't helpful for me, personally. If it works for you, then it works for you. But I would feel quite insecure using this method for CGSS.
Oh my god. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, nice run so far, though.
No.
Alright, Eggman.
Yeah,
Eggman. We're nearing the end of this journey. Good, that's the correct way to start the fight. If you want to use this method, then yeah, this is the Dark Pro method. Again, I don't... Partly because of this happening, I don't really favor this method myself.
Oops, don't die, don't die. Alright.
Like, I don't really like this method. I instead prefer to just circle strafe him, again, as you've seen on my streams, and time when to face back towards him to no-scope him. Because you should be able to see, just as the fight is progressing, that whenever you damage him, he responds by firing a few no-scope shots. That's a pretty consistent pattern. Like, he fires 6 shots there. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he's immediately vulnerable again. So you can use those shots that he always fires as a cue for when you should counterattack him if you're circle strafing him. That's pretty much all I'm doing throughout the fight. Because he does it after this hit as well. He's charging the laser, but he still fires the Vulcan shots. Like, he still fires them at the same rate. So you can pretty consistently use that to your advantage to actually gauge when to attack him.
Okay.
And yeah, if you end up in this sort of position where you are to the side of the laser, then you can't take him on in a direct firefight because the laser just eats your shots, which is a problem.
Oops. Don't die, don't die. Alright. Very good.
That was actually very close, I think.
Oops. Don't die, don't die. Alright.
Oh, the shot ran into you with iframes. That was maybe a bit lucky, but, you know, you won.
Very good Eggman 2 fight. Holy crap. Okay, guys. It's now or never. Last step.
I mean, if a 16 actually ended up like being a gold, though, it makes me kind of want to demonstrate the fight. So I guess Hero Story is the best way to reach this. I'll just do CGSS and get to Eggman 2 quickly. Please. Actually, since I'm meant to be like demonstrating a lot of helpful stuff, as a quick aside, I do want to demonstrate a backup here in CG, which some people may not know of, and which it's actually very important to know this backup. This won't take long to point out. Because I would argue you need to know how to do this backup. Because if you fuck this up, and you end up in this position, you can either lose a lot of time trying to get back up here and getting in the right position to do this, or you can instead just jump and hold up so that you are against the back wall, and this will push you down like this, and you can just manually homing attack the glass from here. That was a bad collision. Like from here, it's pretty easy to get yourself in the right position to be able to do a homing attack. I'm getting a lot of bad collisions here, but this generally works quite well. That is a backup that you really need to know how to do, though, because it is generally the fastest way to get out of that situation. Yeah, this is... I don't like this rail at all. Why can't I get CGSS? Straight in the middle. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, a little lower than dead middle, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so Eggman 2. The thing that we're all here for.
Barely made it.
Barley made it. So, like, as I mentioned, the start of the fight is exactly what I would do on any attempt, where you face the direction you want to be shooting, and then you start shooting, which hopefully gives 3 good shots that have a good chance of hitting him. Like, something like that. But then, where our strats differ is that at this point, I'm still running in this direction, and I'm just circle strafing him, and then again, I'm using the timing of his shots to gauge when to actually shoot back towards him. And again. And this can consistently get you like a low 15 at worst, as long as you don't like miss the shots. And you shouldn't really miss as long as you just make sure that Tails has enough time to face upwards before shooting him. That's a rare mistake. I'm playing with the game on the other monitor, which I'm blaming for some of this as well, lol. So without pausing. Like, yeah, that's going to be like a flat 15. So, again. Oh, wow. That's something that can happen where he can just stop firing and move away. But if you react to that fast enough, I'll just show you can use another reason why I do this particular strat and end up where I do, is that you can use this area of the room to your significant advantage. So I'm not going to shoot at him here, I'm just going to let him like run at and towards me. This area of the room, near where this grey door is, this whole area here, is actually an area that Eggman cannot physically enter. Like, you can see he's trying to get to me, but to no avail. And he will put himself in a very easy position for you to just shoot him. Like, you can just make sure you're facing up, and you can get him so easily in this spot. This is one of the reasons why I use this position, in case something like that goes wrong, and you can still get very easy hits, and more importantly, he will hold still while you do it. Which is very difficult to force elsewhere in the arena. And yeah, I think this is generally a really easy spot to take on Eggman, personally. I don't like letting him have the run of the rest of the arena.
If I don't fuck up this, it's gonna be a...
Merde. Alright, so if you want to bounce onto the rail here, I'm assuming that the delay is from... I may as well finish the fight now. Oh. I'm assuming that the delay is from being scared of bouncing through the rail. You can prevent this from happening by moving forward slightly at the very start of the stage, because passing through the rail is just caused by bouncing on the horizontal point of the rail. Like, if you try and bounce onto a horizontal rail, you'll probably just go straight through it like this. Like, that will happen pretty consistently if you try and bounce onto a horizontal rail. But if you, like, move forward a little bit to get onto a more vertical part, you can do an immediate bounce and you'll easily get onto it. Like, I just do this at the start of Final Rush every time, and it works very well. Yay. Just something to note. Okay. Well, that was a lot of spare height there, but whatever. And then, yeah, it's just a Final Rush skip. So, it's Final Rush skip.
Let's get a sick PB.
I agree. Letters.
Bloop. You come at the right turn.
So, Shadow 2, anything to speak of here? A little late on starting inputs, if anything, or just starting the fight properly. Like, it was almost 7 seconds before you actually like jumped and started here. I always say that for this particular fight, I can just demonstrate on Sonic 2, because the final Dark Story scene starts on Sonic 2, and the fights are more or less identical. Just like Rouge, you just want to be paying attention to when you gain control in this fight, which is exactly 6 seconds on the clock. I'm going to be doing my A taps in time to the timer. And on 6, I get the jump off. Which now I'll do them slightly before the second. And that time, I don't get the jump off. So as long as you are like basically doing it in time to the music, or the second tap ticking up, you should get that jump off pretty consistently. And then from there, you can just get in position as soon as possible to start attacking. And hopefully get the first hit sooner. And then from there, it's just playing out the strat of the fight. Yeah, just too early.
That's not good.
Nice recovery though. Like, I mean, yeah, a 23 isn't great at a high level, but you gain control of the fight back pretty quickly. So, at least next attempt, you've got a free few seconds on Shadow 2.
Okay. That was a shitty ending, but I did PB, guys. We gaming.
Yes, we are indeed gaming. So, Specific things to point out. Things that were good are like a lot of the trick execution is like honestly quite good. Like obviously you got a wall run, which is really nice. You got CGSS. You got Eternal Engine second try, sure, but it's really fucking dumb. So, and you had a really nice egg golem. So, like a lot of the big trick execution was really good throughout this run. The things that I think just stick out as biggest room for improvement is honestly basic movement. Like it sounds silly, but I honestly think just the basic movement is what you could stand to practice and get the most benefit from. Because if it's just at a slightly higher level, it will translate to little bits of time save everywhere, and you'll just find your level times generally coming down without even really being able to pinpoint exactly what you're doing faster, but it is going to end up being faster everywhere. And you'll just have a much easier time pulling time save together like that. Like piece knowledge was generally like very good throughout the run as well. Obviously, it seems to me like you know exactly where all the pieces are, so that's not really something to point out. Some of the like routing between hint monitors, like I mentioned the thing in Pumpkin Hill, stuff like that can potentially be faster, but that's just more trial and error than anything. And it's nothing like major. Like there weren't any huge routing mistakes present in the Knuckles. Like overall, this is quite a strong run. Like it's a 36 RTA. Of course, it's going to be a pretty strong run. So it really is just the little things that I'm needing to point out because that's all I can really go on. There's nothing like, oh, you should be doing this and you'll save 20 seconds if you do this. Like there's just nothing like that in this run. It really is only the little things that I can go into.